Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Danielle, aka Stitcherista here on YouTube, and today is Monday, July 11th. I just got back from my second shot for the hepatitis B vaccine. I have one more in December. You have to do your third one 6 months from your first one. My first one was in June. So yeah. And my job starts at 11, so it's about 9:45 here, so I have a little bit of time. Bill just tried to call me before I started filming this, and all of a sudden his coworkers are in the background like screaming or something, and he got really mad, and he said, I have to call you back. Okay, bye. Yeah. So, yesterday, Bill didn't get home until like 7:30. He was gone all day. So I did get some stitching done. You're going to laugh when I tell you what happened. I wasn't laughing, but it is what it is. So I watched a lot of Nurse Jackie yesterday. I really like that show. And I have all the seasons, so yeah, I was watching that yesterday. I am working on Primrose Cottage Stitches Plant Grow Bloom. And I always start with the border because I like to get the border stitched. That way I can cut the paper, put the washi tape. Well, I'm going to show you. I did get the border done yesterday. So that it's looking very cute, right? So normally when I stitch the border, I will stitch this side. Let's just say I start with this side. And then I'll do the half, and then I'll go back and complete it. Well, for some reason yesterday, I decided to just do the half, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go all the way around, then I'll complete it all the way around. So I did here, I did here, I did here, and this was not matching up to this. And I'm like, oh my God, I messed up somewhere way back. Where do you think I messed up? Way back here, because it goes like 2 stitches, 3 stitches, 3 stitches, 2 stitches, 1. Goes like 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. And I had 2 1s. I did a 1 and a 1, and it was like way back here. I was like, you've got to be kidding me right now. So I had to go back. I had to tear all this out, all the way up to here. There was no fudging it, because if you don't have the border right, the stuff inside isn't going to fit right. So, and this would not have matched up, and that would have just made me crazy. So I stitched a lot yesterday. I would have had so much more done if I wouldn't have made that mistake, but at least I got it fixed. And when Bill went to bed last night, I stayed up until 10 o'clock and finished the border. So yeah. And, you know, someone had sent me an Instagram message saying that they do make colored perforated paper. Well, yeah, I know. I have the colored perforated paper in 14 count. They make a ton of colors. They don't make the colors in 18 count. So, but my little marker trick, I think that's going to be the ticket. Like, that's going to work. So, but yeah, so that's all I got. I was very tired this morning when I got up. I didn't want to get up. I got up at 7 and then got ready and went to the doctor and did all that. But I'm trying to get this done before work, because I don't know how long today's going to go. And we have today, tomorrow, Wednesday is all in the same case. Can be a blessing and a curse. Can be a blessing because we get used to the terminology and all that stuff. But I'm hoping it's not like hard terminology or something like that. You know what I mean? We'll see. But I got kind of loose ends wrapped up. Next Tuesday, I have my eye doctor appointment already, so I'll be looking forward to that, although it's at 8 o'clock, so I'm her first appointment. I said that I needed that because then my job starts at 10 o'clock that day, so I need to be back. All right, so the Unfuck Yourself entry for today. Excellent tear. As your wisdom grows, you might become a threat to someone else's mirage. It's okay. Be responsible, be compassionate, and let that shit go. And you know, when you change, and I said this to Bill, when you change something about yourself, as in us eating healthy, and that comes to mind because I noticed it the few times that I've lost weight. When you do something different like that and people see it, you're gonna get like the crappy comments, because what it does is it makes people think about what they're doing or what they're not doing. And people don't like that. Yeah, I've noticed that quite a bit. All right, so remember, today's small miracle story is kind of long, so that's why I saved it for today, knowing I wasn't going to have like a ton of stuff to talk about. Okay, yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 pages, so buckle in, right? In the winter of 1979, I began work with a Bowen coach, which is a family therapist, to change my position in a key triangle in my family. As a seasoned therapist myself, I understood that such a task was not to be taken lightly. Indeed, I fully anticipated encountering my own resistance to change, as well as my family's change back maneuvers. Despite my intellectual sophistication, I was naive and ill-prepared for my venture. No one had warned me about cosmic counter moves. What is a cosmic counter move? It is, in my opinion, nothing short of a change-back reaction from the cosmos itself. It is something different from and greater than the usual forms of resistance described in the literature on the family. A cosmic countermove issues from the gods themselves when we dare to disturb our universe or invite our clients to do the same, the case in point, my own family. When I began working with my coach, my long-term goal was to establish an emotionally close relationship with both my mother and my father. Before this time, my relationship with my mother had been at my father's expense, in that he had occupied an extreme outside position in the family. In fact, fathers had occupied an outside position in my family for several generations, while mothers and daughters were bound together by unswerving loyalty. I simply did not contemplate having anything other than a distant relationship with my father. Never did I so fully appreciate the power of resistance as when I proceeded to behave differently in this entrenched triangle. I vividly recall my starting point, a memorable visit from my parents in 1979, shortly after the birth of my second son. My mother was washing dishes in the kitchen, busily elaborating on my father's most recent manifestations of immaturity and insensitivity. My father was entertaining my husband Steve in the living room, undoubtedly making conspicuous displays of these same qualities. In the past, I would have joined forces with my mom. This time was different. I still recall the terror in my bones as I told my mother that I didn't want to talk about Dad anymore. I went on to explain with genuine warmth that the older I became, the more I realized that I needed to have a relationship with both of my parents and that both of them were very important to me. When I was finished, my mother's anxiety was sky high. "You cannot know me," she said with uncharacteristic coldness, "if you are unwilling to hear the truth about your father." I put my arm around her and said, "Mom, I want to get to know you from my relationship with you. And I want to get to know Dad from my relationship with Dad." And so it went. I had rehearsed the conversation in my head many times. Nonetheless, it felt like nothing short of treason. "I'm going to give her cancer," I announced to my husband that evening. My mother was not struck dead by my words, although she did have a predictably dramatic reaction as she proceeded to test out whether I could be induced to reinstate the old pattern. The next morning, however, she appeared at the breakfast table looking cheerful and relaxed, having obviously enjoyed a good night's sleep. I, however, had not slept well at all, and when morning came, I discovered large red splotches on my arms. This new and colorful symptom was my first lesson in humility. My parents' resistance to change proved to be considerable, but less considerable, I confess, than my own. So what's new? Any student of Family Systems Theory 101 knows that we can all be counted on to resist the very changes that we seek. I ask the reader to bear with me. This small slice of life is merely the historical backdrop against which I will illustrate a potent source of systemic resistance heretofore ignored in the family literature, the cosmic countermove. Recently, I visited my parents in Phoenix following news that my father, who prides himself on reaching the age of 75 without even a sniffle, had suffered a mild heart attack. This unexpected and unwelcome reminder of my father's mortality heightened my awareness that my parents were old and would not be around forever. During the visit, I felt especially loving towards them both, and I was inspired to engage in a bold and courageous act. Actually, bold and courageous acts were the name of the game since that first conversation with my mother in 1979. Of course, change occurs slowly and rightfully so, but as we will see, too bold a change may incur a counter-move from the cosmos itself. What then was my bold and courageous act? It was this. I asked my father if he would make me a gift of an old prized Chinese bond. I told him that I would frame it and give it a place of honor in my home. This request may not sound particularly daring or even noteworthy to the reader. Nonetheless, the request and granting of this particular gift was a bold challenge to my family's long legacy of emotional distance between fathers and daughters. My father carefully rolled the bond into a cardboard tube so that I could hand carry it safely on the airplane back to Topeka. His anxiety about this exchange was revealed only by the number of times he reminded me to keep it clean and frame it quickly so that no harm would befall it. As I boarded the airplane, his final words were spoken with affection. Now don't get chicken schmaltz, which is fat, on that bond, Harriet. I had to smile at this, reminder of my growing up years in Brooklyn and my father's chronic irritation at my habit of snacking while doing my homework, which sometimes led to chicken schmaltz finding its way onto my schoolwork. I arrived home both pleased and anxious about this forbidden act of father-daughter intimacy. Where could I keep the bond until my schedule would permit a visit to the frame shop? I carefully removed it from the narrow cardboard tube and laid it flat on the carpeted floor of a remote attic room on the third floor of my large old home. Our entire third floor is reserved for guests, and this room is forbidden territory for the rest of the family. It is my private space, and it has long been my custom to sort out my manuscripts and documents on the floor there. 3 weeks later, after receiving an inquiry from my father about the bond, I proceeded to retrieve it to bring to the framers. As I lifted the bond from its place, I could not register nor make sense of what my eyes saw. The face of the bond was crinkled and stained. But this was not possible. I examined the papers on the floor surrounding it, and they were in perfect condition. I looked up at the ceiling directly above, half expecting to see a leak, but no leak was to be found. I stood staring at the bond in stunned disbelief and recalled my father's final words to me at the airport. Had the heavens dripped chicken schmaltz on his bond? I rushed downstairs, bond in hand, where a friend was drinking tea in the dining room. She is almost 30 years my senior and wise in the ways of the world. What is this? I demanded of her as I thrust the stained bond under her nose. My friend looked and sniffed and then made her diagnostic pronouncement. It's cat urine, she said blandly. Oh my God. And so it was. My sons had left the front door open, and one of the neighborhood cats that graced our front porch had made its way up 2 flights of stairs to find my father's bond and pee on it. How can we understand such an action? Did the cat not have 4,500 square feet of floor on which to pee, to say nothing of the countless papers that were spread around the floor of our attic rooms? How can we fathom such a choice, and how could I explain it to my father? Oh God. It was in contemplation of this event that I concluded that the concept of cosmic countermove should be added to the family systems literature. And yes, I believe there is a moral to my story. Dare you disturb the universe? Remember that multi-generational work is only for the boldest among us. Do not begin the journey unless you are prepared to answer to the gods themselves. As for my father, he took the news with surprising good humor. Perhaps, although I may be wrong, I detected a tad of relief in his voice. Be it chicken schmaltz or cat pee, it is reassuring to know that some things never change. So that is by Dr. Harriet Lerner. Dr. Harriet Lerner is one of the foremost international authorities on women's psychology. She is the author of The Dance of Deception, The Dance of Intimacy, and The Dance of Anger. She is also a staff psychologist at the Menninger Clinic in Topeka, Kansas. Yeah, your family dynamic, it plays out the same way, right? Like, I know, like when we go to a friend's house that has a pool, that I know what the dynamic is going to be. To change that dynamic, it is a bold move to make a change, and it's almost like you're setting a different ripple in the time continuum, right? Yeah, you have to be careful of doing stuff like that. I think people like to put each other in these boxes, and when you try to venture outside of that, they don't know what to do or how to behave. So, interesting story. Okay, so I hope you guys are all having a good start to the work week. It is Monday. So far my day has been good. I'm going to get ready and have breakfast here. So as always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.